The cries of the girl in the wheelchair reached Hell's Angels long before anyone noticed her tears, long before the world chose to look away, long before hope even remembered her name. On a rain-soaked evening when the city felt like it was holding its breath, the sound of her pain rose from a forgotten street corner, fragile yet fierce, like a wounded bird refusing to die in silence. The streetlights flickered as if uncertain whether to stay awake, and in that trembling light sat Emily Carter, motionless except for the shaking of her hands gripping the cold metal wheels, her face turned upward as if begging the sky for an answer that never seemed to come. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and unseen miracles, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to the channel for more real and emotional stories, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that need them most. Emily Carter had not always been invisible. Once, she had been a girl who ran barefoot through summer grass, who laughed too loudly and dreamed too big. That life ended one cruel night when a drunk driver shattered her body and fled into the darkness, leaving her spine broken and her future rewritten in silence. At 19, she woke in a hospital bed unable to feel her legs, staring at a ceiling that felt like a locked door between her and everything she used to be. Her parents tried, but grief and debt hollowed them out, and within 2 years, illness took her mother and desperation took her father. Emily was left alone with a wheelchair, a stack of unpaid bills, and a city that had no patience for broken things. The shelter she lived in was loud, crowded, and cold, but the streets were colder. Every morning, Emily rolled herself through cracked sidewalks searching for work that no one would give her and dignity that no one seemed willing to offer. People smiled politely and walked faster, eyes sliding past her like she was part of the pavement. She learned the language of pity and the deeper cruelty of indifference. Hunger became a constant ache, loneliness a heavier weight than her useless legs. At night, she would park her wheelchair by the window of her tiny room and watch motorcycles roar past, their engines screaming freedom she could never touch. Those motorcycles belonged to Hell's Angels, a name whispered with fear and judgment across the city. To most, they were outlaws, shadows on chrome, men with scars and secrets who lived outside the rules. To Emily, they were just noise, passing thunder that reminded her how small and stuck her world had become. She never imagined that those same engines would one day carry something far greater than fear. The night everything changed, rain poured like the sky itself was breaking. Emily's wheelchair had slipped on a broken curb, sending her crashing onto the wet pavement. Her chair tipped, her body twisted awkwardly, pain exploding through her spine as water soaked her clothes and chilled her skin. Cars passed without stopping. Windows stayed rolled up. The city pretended not to see. Her cries tore out of her chest, raw and desperate, echoing down the empty street. She cried not just from pain, but from the exhaustion of being unseen, from the terror that this might be how she disappeared, alone and unheard. The sound of motorcycle engines cut through the rain, deep and thunderous, growing closer. A pack of Hell's Angels rode into the street, their headlights slicing through the darkness. They were returning from a long ride, leather jackets heavy with rain, faces hardened by years the world never forgave. One by one, the bikes slowed, engines rumbling uncertainly as the cries reached them. The men who had faced prison cells, violence, and loss without flinching felt something shift in their chests at the sight before them. They saw a girl soaked and shaking on the pavement, her wheelchair overturned beside her like a fallen companion. Without hesitation, the bike stopped. The rain kept falling, but something warmer filled the street as rough hands gently lifted Emily, righting her chair, wrapping her in dry jackets that smelled of oil and road dust. No one asked questions. No one judged. In that moment, Emily was not a burden or a problem. She was human, and that was enough. What followed was not a miracle in the way movies tell it, but something deeper and more real. The Hell's Angels began checking on Emily regularly. They fixed her wheelchair when it broke. They brought groceries when her cupboards were empty. They used their connections to help her find medical care she had long given up on. Slowly, cautiously, Emily learned to trust again. She learned that kindness sometimes comes wrapped in leather and scars, that angels do not always look holy. As weeks turned into months, Emily's world expanded beyond survival. With help from the group, she found a small accessible apartment. They helped her enroll in online courses for graphic design, something she could do from her chair, something that made her feel capable again. The same men the city feared sat quietly during her first small art exhibit, pride shining in their eyes as they watched strangers admire her work. Emily began to smile more, her laughter returning, softer but stronger than before. The challenges did not disappear. Pain still woke her at night. There were days when depression tried to pull her back into darkness, days when the world reminded her that disability still came with barriers. But now, she was no longer facing those days alone. She had a family forged not by blood, but by compassion. She had proof that even in the roughest corners of life, humanity survives. Near the end of that year, Emily rolled herself back to the street where she had fallen. The curb was still broken, the streetlights still flickered, but she felt different. She felt rooted, seen, alive. The sound of motorcycles echoed in the distance, and instead of longing, she felt gratitude. Her cries had reached hell's angels, and they had answered not with fear, but with love. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe even a little more in unexpected kindness and second chances, please take a moment now to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can be told. Please comment one word that describes how this story made you feel. Emily's life did not become perfect, but it became meaningful. And sometimes, that is the greatest miracle of all.